You keep losing to people who aren't even better than you, only more ruthless. Today, we fix that. You're about to learn 18 Machiavellian laws that make your competition suffer, collapse, and retreat before the fight even begins. Every competition, exams, sports, business, career, is a battlefield. Good intentions don't win, strategy does. And Niccolò Machiavelli taught one eternal truth: if you cannot dominate the game, you will be dominated by it. In this video, you will learn how to win by design, not by chance. In every arena of life, from school to business offices to sports fields, there exists a silent truth people are too gentle, too polite, or too naive to admit. Competition is not a friendly exchange. It is not a celebration of mutual effort. It is war, disguised in the clothing of civility. And those who understand this from the beginning rise naturally to the top, while those who cling to the illusion of fairness remain trapped beneath the feet of sharper minds. When you enter any competition, no matter how small, you must view it as the opening move of a battlefield, not with fear but with clarity. Because when you treat competition as war, you awaken a strategic mind that others have kept dormant. Machiavelli taught that the danger is not in the battlefield itself, but in entering it unprepared. The man who assumes his opponent thinks like a friend will be betrayed by his own softness. The one who enters with the eyes of a general, however, sees threats before they appear, traps before they close, and weaknesses before they are exploited against him. This is why your mindset is your first weapon. If you show up thinking this is merely a test of skill, you will lose to someone who sees it as a test of dominance. Skill can be matched. Mindset cannot. Victory begins in the head, long before it appears in the world. Once you adopt the mentality of war, the environment around you changes. You stop hoping for opportunities and begin creating them. You stop fearing the strength of rivals and begin studying them the way a commander studies enemy armies. You realize that people hide more than they reveal, and that their smiles, their confidence, their bragging, their silence, all of it is tactical. You learn to read these signals not as social gestures but as movements on a battlefield map. Every competitor becomes a piece on the board, and you begin positioning yourself to control the center, dictate the pace, and force reactions that benefit you. Treating competition as war means understanding that every detail matters. The time you wake up, the level of consistency you maintain, the way you control your emotions, even the narrative you project about yourself, these are not personal habits. They are weapons. Discipline is the armor that shields you from collapse. Confidence is the banner that rallies your inner forces. Preparation is the army you build in silence. A competitor who trains casually loses casually. A competitor who trains as if preparing for conflict becomes unstoppable because he understands something most people ignore. War rewards the vigilant. But the Machiavellian mind also understands that war is not always loud, nor always violent. The greatest battles are fought subtly, through perception, reputation, mental pressure, and strategic restraint. Competition does not always require brute force. Sometimes it requires the power of appearing stronger, calmer, more certain. When others sense your resolve, they begin to question theirs. When they see you unfazed, they begin to imagine your advantages. When they believe you are undefeatable, half the battle is already won. A psychological edge is often more decisive than a physical one. The battlefield is not out there. It is inside the mind of your rivals. To treat competition as war also means you cannot afford emotional softness. You cannot compete while secretly wishing to be liked. You cannot aim to dominate while fearing judgment. War demands detachment. If someone stands between you and your victory, you cannot allow sympathy to cloud judgment. You must be strategic, not sentimental. When you focus on winning rather than pleasing, your decisions take on a sharpness your opponents will feel. They may try to distract you, discourage you, provoke you, or lure you into mistakes. But when the war mindset is active, you see these attempts clearly and remain anchored. Emotion is the weapon they hope you will use against yourself. The Machiavellian competitor denies them that satisfaction. The war mindset also forces you to face your weaknesses without mercy. In friendly competition, people comfort themselves, saying they did their best. In war, such excuses do not exist. You must analyze yourself as critically as you analyze opponents. You must see where you fall short, where you hesitate, where you sabotage yourself. When you treat competition lightly, you hide from your weaknesses. When you treat it as war, you correct them before someone else exploits them. Improvement becomes non-negotiable because survival depends on it. And with every weakness fixed, your power grows. Another crucial dimension of seeing competition as war is understanding that victory often goes to those who can endure longer. War is not only force, it is patience. Many challenges start strong, but fade because they rely on excitement rather than endurance. The Machiavellian competitor knows that fatigue creates openings. He withstands boredom, discomfort, repetition, long nights, and slow progress, because he understands that the battle lasts until the weaker mind gives up. And most minds give up far sooner than they claim. Endurance is a silent weapon, and when you wield it, you win battles before others realize they are losing. When you embrace competition as war, you stop fearing your opponents and start respecting them as adversaries worthy of study. This shift removes insecurity. Insecurity comes from treating competition as a judgment of your worth. Strategy comes from treating it as a challenge to overcome. When you adopt the mentality of a general, fear dissolves. It is replaced by focus, by intention, by the calm understanding that every move you make either fortifies your position or weakens it. And so you move deliberately, like someone who knows the cost of every step. In every contest, there are those who believe that skill alone is enough to guarantee victory. They practice, they train, they perfect, and yet time and again, they fall short. Why? Because skill, in isolation, is only part of the equation. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power and triumph belong not merely to the capable, but to the one who wields the mind as a weapon. True dominance is psychological. It is the ability to make others doubt themselves, hesitate in critical moments, and ultimately bend to your will before the battle is even over. Skill may win you points. Psychological pressure wins you the war. To apply psychological pressure effectively, you must first understand the human mind. Most people are fragile creatures, easily distracted, prone to self-doubt, and terrified of failure. Their greatest weakness is not their lack of ability, but their lack of certainty. If you can manipulate perception, if you can shape belief, if you can make an opponent question their every choice, you have already gained the upper hand. The battlefield is as much in their mind as it is in reality. When they hesitate, second-guess, or overthink, they falter. When you cultivate an aura of control, you exploit every insecurity they possess. Machiavelli teaches that intimidation is subtle yet relentless. You do not always need to confront your rival openly. Sometimes the mere suggestion of dominance is enough. A confident gaze, a decisive move, a reputation that precedes you. These are weapons of the mind. Your opponent begins to feel the weight of your presence, a pressure that grows heavier with every interaction. It is invisible, insidious, and utterly disarming. They may train harder, study more, but the nagging doubt in their mind erodes their focus. While they expend energy on fear, you expend energy on strategy. Psychological pressure also thrives on unpredictability. If your opponents can anticipate your actions, they prepare and counter. But if you move like a shadow, unpredictable yet precise, they are forced into a constant state of reaction. They are defensive when they should be aggressive, hesitant when they should be decisive. In this way, you control not only the battlefield, but the tempo of the contest itself. Every move you make becomes a mental puzzle they cannot solve. Every pause you take a psychological trap. The stronger your mind, the weaker their resolve. Another essential element is perception management. People fear what they do not understand. When you project confidence, competence, and unshakable composure, others perceive power where there may be none. They begin to overestimate your ability, misjudge your intentions, and make errors based on assumptions rather than reality. This is the art of psychological manipulation, creating a narrative in which your opponent is already behind before the contest begins. Reputation, after all, is a prelude to domination. Skill wins battles, but fear wins compliance. Pressure also requires consistency. You must be relentless without appearing reckless. The human mind breaks under sustained tension far more effectively than under sudden blows. If you act erratically, your opponent adapts. If you act with deliberate, calculated intensity, their defenses erode. Small, continuous acts of control, intimidation, or disruption accumulate like drops of water on stone until resistance fractures under the weight of persistent force. Victory is rarely a single strike. It is the inevitable result of relentless psychological erosion. Machiavelli also emphasizes the power of scarcity and expectation. If your opponents believe your time, energy, or resources are limited, they will act impulsively, fearing to miss an opportunity. If they anticipate your moves but cannot predict the outcome, they are caught in constant mental tension. Both scenarios create an invisible battlefield of the mind. Skill alone cannot force errors. Pressure forces errors. Skill alone cannot generate hesitation. Pressure generates paralysis. Control of the narrative is another critical tactic. Speak little, reveal less, and let rumors, reputation, and observation carry your influence. When others are left to fill the gaps in their understanding, they often fill them with fear or overestimation. They imagine your moves, your intentions, your superiority. They fight ghosts, shadows of your own design. Psychological pressure is not always confrontation. It is control over perception, an invisible hand guiding your opponent toward their own undoing. Finally, remember that psychological pressure is a force multiplier. You may face someone stronger, faster, or more skilled, but when they are already second-guessing themselves, when hesitation infects their every decision, when they are afraid to commit, your advantage multiplies. The mind bends before the body, the soul hesitates before the action, and in that space, victory is claimed by those who understand that power is first a state of mind. The Machiavellian competitor does not merely rely on training, technique, or talent. He understands that the mind is the battlefield and that manipulating it is the most efficient, most devastating path to victory. He applies pressure relentlessly, surgically, invisibly. He controls perception, shapes fear, and exploits hesitation. Every encounter becomes a test not of skill alone, but of will, endurance, and mental dominance. In this way, victory becomes not just a matter of ability, but of inevitability, because the opponent fights not only against you, but against their own unraveling confidence. The genius of psychological pressure lies in its subtlety. The opponent rarely realizes they are being dominated until it is too late. They may believe skill is failing them, that luck is absent, that circumstances are cruel. In truth, their mind has been strategically assaulted from the very beginning, shaping every thought, every doubt, every second of hesitation. And while skill may play a part in the physical execution, the invisible hand of psychological strategy ensures that you are always 3 moves ahead, orchestrating their collapse before they even understand the rules of engagement. In the theater of competition, perception is reality. Few competitors understand this, and even fewer master it. Skill alone is visible, preparation alone is tangible, effort alone is measurable, but the mind that controls, perception, wields power that is far greater than any physical ability, faster than any practiced technique, and deadlier than any brute force. Niccolò Machiavelli long ago observed that rulers who understood how to control what others believe were often victorious, long before the first confrontation. The same principle applies in any competition. Your reputation, carefully cultivated, can fight half the battle for you, leaving your rivals in disarray before you even lift a finger. Controlling perception begins with the simplest but most overlooked truth. People do not see reality clearly. They see what you allow them to see. Every action you take, every word you speak, every choice you make is a brushstroke on the canvas of your image. Competitors often make the mistake of revealing too much, showing their preparation, their emotions, their weaknesses. When this happens, their opponents have a blueprint of how to attack them. The Machiavellian competitor conceals, projects, and manipulates. He allows others to believe what is convenient, terrifying, or misleading. He understands that perception is not a lie, it is power. When others fear, respect, or overestimate you, you gain leverage without lifting a sword. Reputation is a weapon that operates silently but lethally. A competitor with a reputation for dominance forces others into a defensive posture from the beginning. They second-guess themselves, hesitate in crucial moments, and make errors born of intimidation. The competitor who cultivates this aura does not need to fight every battle directly. The fear he inspires does the work for him. History is filled with leaders who understood this principle, generals who won wars by appearing invincible, athletes who dominated because their presence unnerved rivals, business leaders whose reputations alone deterred opposition. In every case, the visible skill mattered far less than the invisible perception. To control perception, one must first master consistency. People trust what they can predict, and they fear what they cannot. A competitor who is calm, decisive, and unshakable projects an image of strength that others cannot ignore. If you act erratically, your credibility diminishes, and your rivals sense vulnerability. But when your actions align with the image you cultivate, when your victories, choices, and even failures reinforce a narrative of power, you become a figure of inevitability. Others do not just compete with you, they compete against the myth you have carefully constructed. Machiavelli also teaches that perception is shaped by strategic visibility. You cannot control everything, but you can control what is seen. In competitions, appearances matter as much as actions. Showing confidence, projecting readiness, and demonstrating composure are signals that others absorb subconsciously. Even small gestures, a calm posture, an unhurried response, an effortless demonstration of skill can magnify your reputation far beyond reality. Your mind controls the story that others tell themselves, and that story influences every decision they make. The battlefield becomes not merely physical or skill-based, but psychological. Another dimension of perception control is narrative manipulation. The stories people believe about you dictate how they respond. A reputation for ruthlessness, strategic brilliance, or unflinching focus alters behavior without a single confrontation. When rivals expect cunning, they anticipate traps. When they expect aggression, they hesitate. Your reputation can cause hesitation, self-doubt, and overcaution, all of which play directly into your hands. Competitors act not against you, but against the idea of you, and this is the most potent form of advantage. Control over perception also demands secrecy and restraint. Never reveal all your strengths. Let others discover your capabilities gradually, like a shadow emerging from darkness. When your opponents underestimate you, they leave openings. When they overestimate you, they act defensively, constrained by fear. In both cases, your control over perception dictates their behavior, guiding them into decisions that favor your dominance. Skill and strategy matter, but perception ensures they are leveraged before the first decisive action. Machiavelli understood that perception is cumulative. Every interaction, every choice, every outcome contributes to a broader image. A single victory can inspire awe, but consistent victories shape legend. Competitors begin to feel that they are fighting not against a person, but against a force. This force, created and maintained by your careful control of perception, manipulates the battlefield before the contest even begins. Every glance, every word, every reputation-building action is an invisible strike aimed at the mind of your opponent. The psychological effects of reputation cannot be overstated. People who believe they face someone formidable hesitate in critical moments. They doubt their strategies, question their instincts, and often act too cautiously or recklessly. These errors, born not of skill but of perception, amplify your power exponentially. You do not need to be the strongest, fastest, or most talented. You only need to be perceived as such. Reputation becomes leverage, leverage becomes opportunity, and opportunity becomes dominance. Controlling perception also forces competitors to fight on your terms. If they are distracted by their own fear or admiration, They cannot impose their strategy. They react rather than act. They defend rather than attack. And when opponents are reactive, the one who dictates perception dictates the contest itself. Machiavelli knew that power is rarely seized by brute force alone. It is cultivated, maintained, and projected. It is an invisible hand guiding the actions of others, bending the battlefield to your design. In essence, to control perception is to control reality itself. Competitors see what you allow, fear what you suggest, and respect what you demonstrate. Reputation becomes a preemptive strike, a silent weapon, and an enduring advantage. Those who master it do not merely compete, they dominate without contest. Skill, preparation, and talent remain important, but they serve the perception you cultivate, amplifying it, legitimizing it, and weaponizing it. When perception fights half the battle, the path to victory becomes not only possible, but inevitable, and your rivals are left struggling to comprehend the forces arrayed against them. Even before the first move is made, in the ruthless arena of competition, every participant carries a flaw. Every mind harbors an insecurity, every skill has a limit, and every strategy contains a gap. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that the path to dominance is paved not merely with one's own strengths, but with a precise awareness and exploitation of the weaknesses of others. To succeed, one must observe relentlessly, analyze relentlessly, and act with surgical precision. The competitor, who can detect the cracks in others while concealing their own vulnerabilities, wields an almost unstoppable advantage. Skill may win a skirmish, but the understanding of weaknesses wins the war. The first principle of this law is observation. True Machiavellian strategy begins with studying your opponents in detail. Watch how they behave under pressure, how they respond to challenges, how they communicate and falter. Notice where hesitation arises, where confidence wavers, where pride blinds them to reality. Weaknesses are rarely advertised, they are whispered in behavior, revealed in patterns, and exposed in moments of discomfort. The competitor who can see these subtle signals gains insight that others do not even realize exists. Once you recognize these patterns, you are no longer competing blindly, you are strategically positioned to exploit them. Exploitation, however, is not brute force. It is precise, deliberate, and often invisible. To attack a weakness recklessly is to reveal your own vulnerability. Instead, the Machiavellian approach requires patience. You create scenarios that coax your opponent into revealing their fragility, then you strike in the most advantageous manner. If they are prideful, you manipulate situations that force them to overcommit and expose themselves. If they are overconfident, you engineer a trap that turns their strength into a liability. If they are indecisive, you accelerate the pace of events until hesitation becomes their downfall. Each exploitation is calculated, deliberate, and designed to maximize advantage while minimizing risk. Equally critical is the concealment of your own weaknesses. A competitor who exposes their insecurities becomes a target. Machiavelli emphasized that no ruler can survive when others perceive weakness. In competition, the same applies. You may have gaps in skill, lapses in endurance, or moments of self-doubt, but these must remain invisible. You cultivate the appearance of invulnerability. You highlight strengths and neutralize attention on weaknesses. Opponents who see only power, confidence, and mastery will direct their efforts toward countering what they perceive, often overlooking where you are truly formidable. The art lies in misdirection. Your opponent's energy is wasted against illusions while your true advantages operate unseen. Machiavelli also understood that exploitation of weakness is psychological as much as tactical. People falter not only because their skills are lacking, but because they are manipulated into uncertainty. When you understand an opponent's emotional triggers, you can induce hesitation, panic, or overconfidence. A competitor who panics under pressure can be coerced into errors with minimal effort. A competitor who brags or boasts can be baited into traps. Exploiting weaknesses is as much about controlling the opponent's mind as it is about exploiting gaps in skill. The strongest weapon is not a blow delivered, but a doubt instilled, a fear cultivated, a decision misled. Timing is everything in exploitation. The moment must be chosen with care. Strike too early, and you may alert your opponent to your intent, strike too late, and the opportunity is gone. The Machiavellian competitor waits, observes, and identifies the precise instant when the opponent's weakness is most vulnerable. Victory is secured in the subtle timing, in the patience of calculation, and in the strategic restraint that ensures your opponent falls into your plan rather than escaping it. Furthermore, exploiting weakness is not about cruelty for its own sake, it is about efficiency. The goal is decisive advantage, not empty triumph. When an opponent's weakness is turned against them, the competition is shortened, resources are conserved, and the path to victory is cleared. In any arena, from business negotiations to sports competitions, those who understand how to focus on the critical vulnerabilities of others are able to achieve outcomes far beyond what skill alone could accomplish. Machiavelli also emphasized adaptability in this strategy. Weaknesses are rarely static. They shift, evolve, and hide behind defenses. The observant competitor must remain fluid, continuously analyzing and recalibrating. What worked yesterday may not work today. To exploit effectively, you must remain attentive, reactive, and always several steps ahead. Every interaction, every reaction, every misstep becomes data to be collected and leveraged. When the competitor's weaknesses evolve, so too must your methods of exploitation. Stagnancy is the enemy of dominance. Another dimension is the power of redirection. Sometimes the best way to exploit a weakness is to lead an opponent into believing that their strength is unopposed. If someone's confidence is inflated, allow it to grow until it becomes a liability. If they are cautious, create illusions that encourage risk. By shaping their perception while masking your own capabilities, you manipulate their choices to serve your strategy. In this way, weakness becomes a weapon, not only in direct confrontation, but in the broader orchestration of outcomes. Finally, Machiavelli reminds us that the strongest competitors are those who merge offense and defense seamlessly. Exploit the cracks in others while fortifying your own. Every victory is temporary unless your weaknesses are shielded. While you engineer their collapse, you simultaneously project an image of strength, conceal flaws, and maintain control of the battlefield. The art of dominance is as much about fortification as it is about attack. Exploitation becomes not just an act of aggression, but a demonstration of mastery over the battlefield, over perception, and over the very minds of those who dare to oppose you. When you understand this principle, competition transforms. It is no longer a mere contest of who can act faster or who can think sharper. It becomes a chessboard, a stage, a battlefield where knowledge of human nature, timing, strategy, and concealment determines the outcome. You do not simply respond to challenges. You shape them, bend them, and use them to your advantage while hiding your own vulnerabilities, ensuring that every move you make amplifies your power and secures your dominance before your opponent even realizes they are in a fight. In the world of competition, the greatest victory is not simply defeating your opponent. It is commanding such dominance that no one dares to challenge you again. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that fear is the most reliable tool of power. Respect may earn temporary compliance. Admiration may secure fleeting loyalty, but fear ensures lasting control. A competitor who is feared by others does not merely win battles, they shape the battlefield itself. They become an unassailable presence, a force that rivals hesitate to confront, and an authority that influences outcomes even without direct engagement. To achieve this, one must cultivate an image, a reputation, and a presence that projects inevitability and danger simultaneously. Fear is not intimidation born of cruelty or reckless aggression. It is strategic, deliberate, and carefully calibrated. The competitor who inspires fear does so through a combination of skill, decisiveness, unpredictability, and psychological manipulation. Every action you take, every victory you secure, every move you make in public or private contributes to the aura you project. A feared competitor is one whose capacity for dominance is evident, but not fully revealed. Opponents sense the power, anticipate the threat, and modify their behavior accordingly, often before a contest even begins. Fear, in this sense, becomes a preemptive strike, shaping the decisions and strategies of everyone around you. Machiavelli emphasized that fear creates compliance even among the strongest adversaries. People are naturally inclined to avoid loss, pain, or humiliation. When confronted with a competitor whose reputation, skill, and calculated ruthlessness suggest that resistance is dangerous, even the boldest opponents hesitate. They second-guess their choices, overanalyze their moves, and often act too cautiously or too aggressively, falling into traps they might otherwise have avoided. A feared competitor does not merely respond to the battlefield, they orchestrate it. Their presence bends the behavior of others to their will, allowing them to achieve influence and control with minimal effort. To cultivate fear, one must first demonstrate competence consistently. It is not enough to win occasionally or to perform impressively once. Dominance must be unmistakable, repeated, and undeniable. When victories are consistent, opponents begin to perceive you as invincible. They interpret every win not as an isolated event, but as evidence of superior skill, preparation, and strategic insight. This perception fosters apprehension. Even those who are equally capable in ability may hesitate when they fear that any engagement carries a high risk of failure. Fear is reinforced through results, and results are secured through disciplined preparation, decisive action, and relentless focus. However, fear must also be coupled with unpredictability. If your opponents can anticipate your moves, they regain a measure of control. The Machiavellian competitor ensures that fear is never predictable, that strategy remains fluid, and that every action signals both capability and the unknown. Uncertainty is a force multiplier in the cultivation of fear. When adversaries cannot predict whether you will act boldly or patiently, they overthink, hesitate, and falter. The mind is the battlefield, and fear shapes the opponent's decisions before the physical contest begins. Psychological manipulation is another key element. To be feared, you must understand the insecurities, pride, and emotional triggers of your opponents. You can then leverage these insights to create pressure, force errors, and erode confidence. People fear what they cannot control. When you expose their vulnerabilities through subtle provocations, strategic challenges, or unexpected displays of dominance, you magnify their perception of your power. A competitor who manipulates fear in this way rarely needs to resort to direct confrontation. The mind becomes the arena where battles are won and lost. Machiavelli also taught that fear, once established, must be maintained with careful balance. Too much aggression or cruelty can provoke rebellion or hatred, undermining authority. Too little, and respect dwindles, allowing rivals to underestimate you. The skillful competitor calibrates their presence, displaying enough power to inspire awe and caution, while concealing enough restraint to remain untouchable. Every action, public or private, is calculated to reinforce the perception of dominance, ensuring that fear remains potent without provoking unnecessary resistance. Another aspect of cultivating fear is decisiveness. Indecision breeds doubt, and doubt invites challenges. The competitor who acts decisively communicates authority, confidence, and control. Their rivals learn that hesitation is dangerous, and that any attempt to contest them carries inherent risk. Every move is deliberate, every strategy executed with clarity, and every victory leveraged to reinforce the aura of inevitability. Decisiveness signals that not only are you capable, but that resistance is futile. Fear becomes a deterrent, protecting your position before a confrontation even begins. Fear also functions as a long-term shield. Competitors who are feared once are less likely to be challenged again, reducing the frequency of conflicts and consolidating influence. It is a preemptive defense. Others may hesitate to engage in contests they would otherwise pursue, leaving you with strategic freedom to choose when, where, and how to assert dominance. This freedom magnifies power exponentially as you dictate the terms of engagement while others are forced to respond. The Machiavellian competitor understands that controlling the conditions of conflict is as important as winning the conflict itself. Finally, to be feared is to be respected in a very particular way. Fear does not rely on admiration or affection. It relies on recognition of potential consequences. People comply not because they like you, not because they trust you, but because they understand that challenging you carries risk. This fear is a form of leverage that few other tools can provide. It ensures that your victories are more than momentary. They shape behavior, dictate choices, and create an environment in which dominance is self-reinforcing. In essence, a winner who is feared commands more than respect. They command inevitability. They shape perception, control the battlefield, and manipulate the minds of competitors to serve their strategic objectives. Fear becomes both weapon and armor, attack and defense, presence and influence. In cultivating this fear, the Machiavellian competitor transforms from a participant in competition into an authority that others hesitate to challenge, ensuring that their victories are not fleeting but enduring, and that their dominance is not merely achieved but unquestioned. Victory is never accidental. It is the product of strategy, psychology, perception, and ruthless awareness. Machiavelli teaches us that to dominate any competition, you must see it for what it truly is, a battlefield where only the prepared, the cunning, and the fearless survive. You must treat every contest as war, apply psychological pressure to break your opponent's minds, control perception so your reputation precedes you, exploit weaknesses while concealing your own, and cultivate fear so deep that no one dares to challenge you twice. Skill alone is never enough. Talent without strategy is wasted energy. Confidence without calculation invites failure. By mastering these 18 laws, by internalizing the mindset of dominance, and by acting with relentless precision, you do not merely win, you reshape the battlefield itself. Your presence, your reputation, and your strategy force opponents to falter even before the first move. You make them question themselves, hesitate, and ultimately suffer under the invisible weight of your superiority. In the end, competition is not about fair play or good intentions. It is about power, influence, and inevitability. Those who embrace this reality, who act with Machiavellian clarity, do not simply participate, they conquer. Every move you make, every advantage you seize, and every reputation you build compounds into dominance. The rules are not written by chance. They are dictated by those who are willing to do what it takes to ensure victory, control the battlefield, and leave competitors broken, hesitant, and defeated before the contest even truly begins. Victory belongs to those who understand the mind, manipulate perception, and wield strategy like a weapon. When you step into any competition armed with these principles, you are no longer a participant. You are the force that others fear, the presence that shapes outcomes, and the strategist who ensures that triumph is not possible for anyone else. You make them suffer not through brute force alone, but through calculated mastery of every aspect of competition, leaving no doubt who rules the arena.